Hi, it's a short revision of Caroline Duffy's answer. The title, first of all, if we're looking at the answer, there has to be an implied question. So we've got to ask ourselves, what is that question? And when we look at the poem as a whole, it seems to be something like, will you still love me? Will you marry me? Will you love me forever? Something along those lines that suggests an insecurity on behalf of the person who's asking the question. But what I want to look at first of all is the structure. When you look across the stanzas, you can see that there is a pattern that emerges. First of all, every stanza begins and ends with a conditional. If you were, if you were. Secondly, possessive pronouns dominate the start of each of the subsequent lines. Your. And finally, we've got the affirmation to end the stanza. Yes, yes. So if you look at them again, conditional, 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 conditional. Possessive pronoun, possessive pronoun, possessive pronoun, possessive pronoun, possessive pronoun, possessive pronoun, and so on. And finally, yes, 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 yes. So we see the same pattern occurring time and time again. Now that structure is important because it reveals something about the nature of the poem's theme. It's about love, and it's about love being continuous, being impossible to thwart. And in this case, that's demonstrated by the repetition of these structural elements. If we go on and have a look at the stanza structure itself, first of all, each stanza is a regular sestet. There are 6 lines to each stanza. And within that sestet, we have the same kind of metre being employed. We've got the metric pattern of 1 trimeter, 4 pentameter, and 1 hexameter. And that's repeated right across the poem. So again, you've got this sense of regularity. It's the same, it's unchanging, just as Duffy's love is unchanging and regular. Now, when you get into the poem itself and the language that's employed, it's absolutely dominated by figurative language. And what I mean by figurative language are things like metaphor, simile, hyperbole, personification, dehumanization, and in this case, metaphor and simile in particular. Just going to pick out a couple of examples. First of all, let's take this second line, your kiss, a fossil sealed up in your lips. I've given a kind of example response to that, just to give you a sense. The word fossil connotes death. It refers to something long dead that's been preserved in stone. To metaphorically suggest that the kiss is a fossil is to imply that it is lifeless. It contains no passion. Perhaps this passion once existed, but it's long since extinct. The fossil is sealed in your lips, which are presented as cold and as hard as the stone which a fossil is embedded in. This contrast between the expected warmth and passion of a kiss and the cold, lifeless connotations of a fossil are shocking and repulsive. Duffy would love her partner even if he was this physically repulsive and passionless. So we can just take a word like fossil and the way it's referred to lips and explore the kind of idea that she's trying to present. And essentially this idea remains the same for nearly all of the figurative language throughout, which is, if something terrible and repulsive and horrible was the case about the partner, then she would still love him. The answer would still be yes. Sorry, we'll just go back to one more on this. Your eyes are sightless marble to my touch. One of the things that's interesting about this is the use of the word sightless. Obviously, sightless eyes are useless. Eyes are used to see. But it's not the eyes that are described as sightless, it's the marble. So this is a transferred epithet. The word sightless, which we would normally associate with eyes, has been moved across to describe the marble. A marble, obviously, is sightless by its very nature. So the word itself seems redundant, it doesn't seem worth including there. And it's this worthlessness, this uselessness that's being employed by Duffy to suggest the potential uselessness and redundancy of the partner, and yet the answer would be yes, yes, yes. Going on to the fire stanza, just taking the particular line, your head a wild Medusa hissing flame. You're probably familiar with the idea of the Medusa, or the image of the Medusa, from films like Clash of the Titans. And it's an image of the grotesque, of evil and horror. So here, again, it's the partner that's being compared to this. I think there's something interesting as well about the use of hissing flame, because Hissing flame is obviously suggestive of the kind of sound that a fire makes. It's got that kind of sibilance to it, hasn't it? The hissing, the sparks of the flame. But it also carries across quite neatly to the serpents that form the head of the Medusa. But there's an ugliness, there's a danger that's inherent in this kind of image. And I think we'll just touch on one more, this time on the water. Your breast a deep dark lake nursing the drowned. Well, first of all, there are connotations of breastfeeding here, a kind of nurturing, a love that's one of the most innocent and pure forms of love. But it's juxtaposed to death, nursing the drowned. And it's that kind of juxtaposition of incongruous items: nursing, love, positivity, warmth; drowned, death, cold, horror. Putting the two together makes it seem shocking and awful. We've also got this idea of the horrible communicated through some of the phonological features as well. We've got a deep, dark, drowned, that d alliteration, which is quite a hard, heavy, depressing sound, really being carried across the whole line.